You have to understand what the world was like in August 1914. None of us knew what modern warfare meant. We thought it would be a quick adventure, a matter of honor, all over by Christmas. Naivety was our most fatal disease. There was a fever in London. Lord Kitchener pointed his finger at us from every corner. We joined the PALS battalions, fighting alongside neighbors, workmates. It seemed comforting, but it was a tragic trap. When we signed those papers, we were wiping out entire neighborhoods in a single stroke. We arrived in Belgium expecting to fight in open fields, like in the history books. Instead, we found Mons, smoke, coal, and industry.
An impeccable performance is expected today, gentlemen. Maintain discipline, and the line will hold firm.
And then we heard the German artillery. They had heavy guns we couldn't even imagine. Cavalry warfare died right there. In seconds, we realized that individual bravery was worthless against explosive steel. After the shock came the retreat. We marched hundreds of miles under the August sun. That was where we saw the true face of occupation. Burned houses, displaced civilians. The propaganda said we were fighting for freedom, but looking at those refugees on the road, I realized that to them, we were just another army trampling their crops. When the race to the sea stopped, the shovels began to work. Neither side could flank the other, so we dug. A line of ditches from Switzerland to the coast. The war stopped being about movement and became about who could endure the longest in hell. At Ypres, in 1915, the Germans changed the rules. They opened cylinders of chlorine gas. It was a green-yellow cloud, heavier than air, that sank into the trenches and melted the lungs of anyone who breathed it. We didn't have masks, just rags soaked in urine.
I can't breathe! It burns! Help us! We must retreat now!
That was the moment the war stopped being combat between soldiers and became industrial extermination. Most of the war was boredom. Boredom, mud, rats, and lice. And lies. The letters we sent home were censored. We couldn't tell the truth. Meanwhile, in 1916, the generals were preparing the Somme. They stockpiled millions of shells. They told us it would be a walkover, that the artillery would destroy everything, and we'd just occupy the ground.
Dear God, Alfie, what have we built?
July the 1st, 1916. The bloodiest day in the history of the British Army. The artillery had failed. The German wire was intact. And we were ordered to walk. Not run, walk. Straight into the machine guns. My battalion, the lads from my street. 60,000 casualties in a single day. It was the end of the volunteer army. After the Somme, something changed inside us. We weren't fighting for victory or patriotism anymore.
Water, please, water!
Get this stretcher inside, quickly. We need to operate now. Move him to surgery.
We were fighting just to survive until tomorrow. And the enemy wasn't just the Germans anymore. It was the mind breaking and nature turning against us.
Stop that infernal shaking this instant, George. You are an officer of the king. Act like one. This weakness, it will not be tolerated.
If you were lucky, you caught a blighty one, a wound that sent you home. But there were wounds the doctors didn't understand. They called it shell shock. Strong men shaking uncontrollably, losing their speech, paralyzed by constant terror. The army treated it as a lack of discipline. It took years for them to admit that the human mind has a limit to how much horror it can take. In 1917 at Passchendaele, it rained for months. The drainage systems were destroyed and the land became a swamp. Men and horses would drown in the mud if they stepped off the duckboards. And at the end, in 1918, came the flu. The Spanish lady killed more people than the bullets did that year. Healthy young lads dying blue, suffocated in the dugouts. The war didn't end with a grand, decisive battle like in the films. It ended through exhaustion. Germany was starving, out of resources, and we, with the arrival of the Americans and the tanks, finally broke the line. The last 100 days were a rapid advance. We used tanks en masse, a technology that terrified the infantry. But right up to the last minute, the machine kept eating people. On November 11th, we knew the armistice was at 11 o'clock. Even so, men died at 10:59. Purely bureaucratic deaths. When the guns stopped, the silence was the loudest thing I ever heard. We went back to a London that was celebrating, but they had no idea. They saw victory. We saw what we had left behind. We tried to go back to normal, to fold fabric, to drink tea. But a part of us never left those ditches. We became sentinels of a world that no longer existed.